Welcome to APT Attack Analysis and Response Webinar. Today's webinar consists of 3 parts. I will present the first part, APT Overview. In Part 1's content, we'll show history, APT hacker group, ransomware versus APT, and spear phishing versus APT. And for the hacking instant cases, we'll show Stuxnet, Sony Pictures Entertainment, and Colonial Pipeline instance. Finally, we'll talk about some considerations. Let's define the term APT first. APT, an advanced persistent threat, is a stealthy cyber attack in which a person or a group gains unauthorized access to a network and remains undetected for an extended period. This is a definition from CyberReason. In Wikipedia's definition, APT is a stealthy threat actor, typically a nation-state or a state-sponsored group which gains unauthorized access to a computer network and remains undetected for an extended period. This is BBC News on May 11, 2021. The title is "The Biggest U.S. Pure Pipeline Shutdown in a Cyber Attack That May Originate in Russia."
The biggest fuel pipeline system in the United States remains crippled by a cyber attack that's been called the worst of its kind in the US. The Colonial Pipeline ships more than 2.5 million barrels of oil a day from the Gulf Coast to the East Coast, but it has been shut down since Friday. Today, emergency powers were invoked to try to avoid fuel shortages. President Biden says there is no evidence of Russian government involvement, but there are some signs that the attack originated in Russia.
Now, this is the APT history. The earliest published attack on military research establishment was detected as far back as the late 1980s, when West German hackers penetrated networked computers in California to steal secrets relating to the Star Wars program. This is known as Cook's Egg. An address of this particular set of attacks is related in the 1989 book, The Cook's Egg, Tracking a Spy Through the Maze of Computer Espionage by Clifford Stoll. In January 2010, Operation Aurora occurred, and major companies such as Morgan Stanley and Google, etc., were damaged. In June 2010, Iran's Stuxnet hacking incident occurred. US and Israel made the attack, and Iran's nuclear facilities were damaged. In 2014, Sony Pictures Entertainment hacking occurred. In May 2021, the Colonial Pipeline, as we described before with the BBC News, occurred. In July 2022, hacker group Bitter attacked the Bangladeshi military target. APT actors are named and grouped as hacker groups. Groups assess of related intrusion activity that are tracked by a common name in the security community. Here are known hacker groups. China has PRA Unit 61398, Deputy Dog, and Double Dragon. Iran and Israel also have hacker groups. North Korea has Kimsky, Lazarus, and Cholima. Russia and Vietnam also have hacker groups. The hacker groups has an APT hacker group number. which is organized by the American non-for-profit organization MITRE. This is an APT hacker group shown on the MITRE homepage. We can note that there are so many hacker groups, 132 groups at this time. We can see Kimsky and Lazarus group here. To consider the APT attack, we can think about two topics. One is spear phishing, and the other is ransomware. The first one, spear phishing, is typically used in targeted attack campaigns to gain access to an individual's account or impersonate a specific individual, such as a ranking officer or those involved in confidential operations within the company. Usually, attackers reconciliate targets using homepage surfing or using commands such as whois and mmap. When attackers get information about the employee's email address, they spear phishing to that email address. After spear phishing is done, a success, they continue the hacking scenario continuously. The second main topic of APT is ransomware. Ransomware is a type of malware that prevents or limits users from accessing their system, either by locking the system's screen or by locking the user's files until a ransom is paid. This is the definition of Trend Micro. Usually, nowadays, APT attack is a ransomware attack. The Colonial Pipeline incident is also ransomware APT. The main incident of the attack is Iran's Stuxnet, Sony Pictures Entertainment, and Colonial Pipeline hacking incident. Iran's Stuxnet is done in June 2010, and USA and Israel guessed to do the attack. Sony Pictures Entertainment hacking is done in 2014, and North Korea hacking group Guardians of Peace did it. The Colonial Pipeline attack occurred in May 2021, and Russia is guessed to do the attack. Stuxnet is a computer virus. In June 2010, the different variants of Stuxnet targeted 5 Iranian organizations with a probable target uranium enrichment infrastructure. Stuxnet is the first malware found in the public domain, and is the first malware including the PLC rootkit. Stuxnet was claimed to have been created by the US and Israel to attack Iran's nuclear facilities. The malware was reported to have caused substantial damage to the centrifuges at the Natanz Nuclear Enrichment Laboratory in Iran. Stuxnet was designed to spread initially through an infected USB drive and then use other exploits to infect or update other computers. It was controlled through 2 websites in Denmark and Malaysia. The malware contained 4 different zero-day exploits. Symantec study around 2010, the main countries infected by Stuxnet are Iran, 58%, Indonesia, India, and some other countries. The worm specifically targeted Siemens industrial software and equipment, making itself inert if the target software was not found and containing safeguard to limit the spread of the infection. Once installed on a Windows system, Stuxnet infects project files belonging to Siemens WinCC PCS7 SCADA control software. Step 7. It includes a programmable logic controller, PLC, rootkit. It was also programmed to erase itself on a specific date in June 2012. The design of the worm suggests that it was intended to achieve a specific objective against a particular target, rather than to support a general intelligence gathering operation. The size and sophistication of the code indicated that the development cost would have been substantial, requiring on the order of a dozen or more man-years. Further derivatives of Stuxnet, called Duku and Flame, were discovered over the next 2 years, suggesting that these attacks were part of an ongoing development program. Now, in 2014, there is Sony Pictures Entertainment hacking incident. It is done by Guardians of Peace from North Korea. The computers in Sony Pictures Entertainment are hacked and leaks confidential data from Sony Pictures Entertainment, which is the personal information of employees and families and future plans. This is the victim's screen after hacking occurred. We can see the name Guardians of Peace here. The presumed reason is the assassination of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in the film The Interview, which is scheduled for Christmas. North Korea complained to the United Nations in June 2014 about the problem. After the hacking occurred, the film was canceled in theater, DVD, and VOD. The attack method used server message block, SMB, and wiped the master boot and hard disk. Now, we finally investigate the Colonial Pipeline instance in more detail. The Colonial Pipeline is an American oil pipeline system that originates in Houston, Texas, and carries gasoline and jet fuel to the southeast of the United States. Houston, Atlanta, Linden, New Jersey are displayed on this map. This is the pure pipeline road. Colonial pipelines are hacked by ransomware on May 17, 2021. The company paid the amount that was asked by the hacker group, 75 Bitcoin at that time, $4.4 million within several hours of the accident. The Colonial Pipeline system was shut down for preventing the spread of the attack. The Department of Justice announced that it had recovered 63.7 of the Bitcoins from the ransom payment on June 7th, which is approximately 2.3 million at that time. Since the Bitcoin rate decreased, the value is decreased compared to the paid time. As a result of the attack, not only the Colonial Pipeline was damaged. Who else was affected? Airline industry was also damaged. Jet fuel shortage for many carriers, including American Airlines. Limited disruption at other airports, Atlanta, and Nashville. Fear of gas shortage makes panic buying and real shortages. Florida, Georgia, and some areas, they are panic buying. And real shortages occur in some areas as consumers burn more gasoline than usual. How does the colonial pipeline hacking happen? Hackers gained entry into the network of Colonial Pipeline Company through a virtual private network account, which allowed employees to remotely access the company's computer network. The account's password has since been discovered inside a batch of leaked passwords on the dark web. That means a Colonial employee may have used the same password on another account that was previously hacked. The VPN account, which has since been deactivated, didn't use multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication is a basic cybersecurity tool that allows the hackers to breach Colonial's network using just a compromised username and password. The Colonial Pipeline's hacker is guessed as DarkSide. DarkSide is a hacker group for ransomware as a service. It is based in Eastern Europe, and the official language is Russian. DarkSide is first noticed in August 2020. Kaspersky described the group as an enterprise due to its professional-looking website and attempts to partner with journalists and decryption companies. In this webinar, we saw APT definition, history, hacker group, and ransomware and spear phishing as a related concept. We also saw Stuxnet, Sony Pictures Entertainment, and Colonial Pipeline instance. Now, what can we do for preventing APT attacks? As a regular user, be careful and recognize hacking. Then follow the security guidelines and monitor whether I'm hacked or not continuously. And regularly do a data backup. Now, as an administrator, you should be careful. Follow the security guidelines and do continuous monitoring. And do data backup system-wide, system files, and users' data also. As an administrator, you may prepare guidelines most perfectly and none out of date. Finally, you should encourage users to follow the guidelines. The encouragement includes a penalty or incentive. Thank you for your listening.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joo-Young Kim, as known as Kerberos. I'm from our APT Security. And I just want to let you guys know, this is actually what happens in APT attack. Okay, you guys ready? Let's do some APT. The contents are going through with my usual APT scenarios, finding the vulnerability using the port scan, obtaining the email addresses, bypassing the antivirus using the virus malware, social engineering, let's spear that fish. Can't believe this actually worked. I got a request to do a pen test from a law firm. This time I cannot share the name of the law firm because my client wanted an NDA. I've been doing pen tests for many years, and I tend to always start with port scanning. I just don't know why. Wanted to see what's running on the victim server or PC, victim's machine. Look for any kind of a program vulnerability. After I obtain the program's name and the versions, I look for one-day exploits searching through the sites, such as ExploitDB. Darn, no luck this time. I use a Metasploit module to get an email using the famous search engines like Google, Bing, and Yahoo. I crossed my fingers. Yeah, but the results were terrible. Okay, search some auxiliary module for email gathering. I found this nice module called Email Collector. Looks like it uses 3 big search engines, Google, Yahoo, and Bing. But it's too bad it's not working. Never mind, I found something better. I found a nice email scraper from a GitHub called MailGrab. Finally, I got some result. Yes. And it felt so good. It's awesome. GWOD good. I will save these emails for later to do some spear phishing attacks. And I also tried to use this dropper malware created by this tool from GitHub because it claims that it could create FUD, document type malware. FUD is fully undetectable. The name of this tool was Umbrella Dropper. Using this tool, I had so much hope. But of course, it lied to me. It wasn't that bad, and the tool did create a document type malware, but it got detected by the antivirus. So I decided to spend some time to make a crazy hardcore malware that could actually bypass the antivirus. Fileless malware technique is technique in which malicious code is loaded directly into memory, not as a file, and executed being without stored in a drive. The file does not exist, and therefore, it evades the detection of an antivirus file scan. Yes, that's right, I said it. Malware file does not exist. Payload is dropped from somewhere else, and then shellcode is loaded in the memory. Let's finish the job using the code injection. As you know, the code injection is a technique for inserting and executing shellcode into the target process. And we will be using well-known process this time. These are the functions I used, and this is what they do. Acquire process privileges, allocate spaces in the memory, inserting the payload, and execute. Let's look at the picture for better understanding. Number 1, allocate. Number 2, write and inject. And number 3, create and execute. Don't you just love the interpreter payload? It's only 15 years old. Yes, and of course I modified it. I made an agent called payload sender. This guy right here, is the one that holds the malicious payload. And it waits, and it drops the malicious payload on queue, on signal. It will be running on the attacker's PC. Payload sender was made in order to ensure that payload exists only in the memory of the victim's PC, not as in a file. A separate server that sends the payload was needed. Okay, for those cool people, here's some source code. All right, setting the payload and variables. This code right here, it's initializing the Windows sockets. And this one right here is just created some sockets. And this is a code for setting the listening port and IP addresses. And it's binding the sockets. Setting that sockets to listen. This is a script for allowing the client connections. And finally, this code right here is to send the payload and closing the connection. Finally, payload executor. You already know what it does, I believe. Payload executor will be running on the victim's PC, on the victim's machine. This will connect the payload sender, which is attacker's PC, which attacker's PC that holds a malicious payload on the attacker. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna do it over. Payload sender, which is a server that holds malicious payload on the attacker's PC. Download the payloads will bypass the antivirus and injects the payload into a well-known process to execute the shellcode. End the session. Yes, that session. Here are some more source code for awesome and fantastics. Let's get that list of running process. Don't forget to get the privileges. Here on this code is checking the process name. It's done, writing the payload into memory. Create that remote thread and run the payload. Running princess. No, I meant to say process. Running process. Okay, this is how it works. As you see, the payload executor, it connects to the sender. And it sends the payload back to the payload executor. It writes the memory to a well-known process called explorer.exe. Because it writes into the well-known process, it's not detectable by antivirus. Finally, you get the session through the Metasploit's Interpreter session. It worked and evaded antivirus detection with flying colors. And finally, malware that could bypass the antivirus detection. Wow, there's so many emails to choose from. Who should I choose? I use the email to search. I use these emails to search LinkedIn and Facebook to see who might be vulnerable enough to double-click my ransomware patch. My ransomware patch, double-click. Someone who is not aware of security. And yes, I found the target. Her name was Amy. Amy Park. She is a secretary. She works for a top head pro. And yes, pro means lawyer. After I sent a well-made phishing email with my ransomware patch to her, after I sent well-made phishing email to her and waited about 5 minutes, and guess what? I got an email back. She returned my email saying that she's off work now. But as soon as she comes back tomorrow morning, she will run and install the ransomware patch I sent her. That's great. Still can't believe this actually worked. That's it for now. Thank you, and thank you very much for listening.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your valuable time today. I'm David Seonbaek, Chief Strategy Officer from MPCore, which is a cybersecurity company in Korea specializing in APT and EDR. Today, I'm going to talk about inter-park hacking incident, hacking trend in the market, antivirus and EDR, instant backup remediation, social engineering, and considerations. I would like to start my presentation through the inter-park hacking incident, which happened in 2016. Interpark is one of the largest e-commerce players in Korea, like Amazon. This was a typical APT cyber attack case of spear phishing. Spear phishing is an email or electronic communication scam targeted towards a specific individual, organization, or business. Although often intended to steal data for malicious purposes, cyber criminals may also intend to install malware on the targeted user's computer. The hackers first infected the employee PC with malicious code through spear phishing. The hackers impersonated a brother of one of the staff and sent emails to the employee's personal email with the malicious codes to penetrate the company's network. The malicious code spread to multiple terminals and collected internal information. After gaining control of the personal information, handle PC that could access the database server, the hacker could access the server, hijack the personal information, and such as user IDs and passwords, and secretly send them to themselves. The hacker took advantage of the vulnerabilities such as password management and server access control management, and this all happened just for 4 days. But the damage was detrimental. So what were the consequences? Firstly, the Korea Communications Commission, or KCC, Korea's telecommunications watchdog, decided to impose a fine of 4.5 billion Korean won, USD 3.8 million, on this large company for its failure to protect information of customers. Secondly, leak of information, personal information, of 10.3 million customers, such as their identification and passwords, as well as their cell phone numbers and addresses. Thirdly, the hackers sent emails to the company's executives asking for 3 billion Korean won, 2.66 million US dollars in bitcoins, a virtual currency exchangeable online. I hope this does not sound like a fear mongering, but this kind of hacking incident can happen to any organization. Be reminded that this company already has cybersecurity protections on their network and their servers, but once the endpoint which is authorized to compromised, this is the consequence that you're going to get. And this is why people talk about endpoint protection being so important and crucial lately. Weaponized APT attack, you are never safe anymore. As you can see the graph, APT has been increasing dramatically, and this trend will continue. Before Russia invaded Ukraine, Chinese hackers conducted cyber attacks against the 600 places, including major facilities and institutions in Ukraine. In accelerating digitalization, cyber attacks are expected to intensify and expand. As digitalization progresses, it is perhaps natural to try to take the lead after neutralizing and disrupting the digitized system with cyber attacks. Unfortunately, many organizations still view their cybersecurity investment as a waste of money. Cyber attacks can cause colossal damage. APT is an attack that creates a variety of security threats and continuously and intelligently attacks a specific organization or network of any particular company. For example, it is possible to attack the computers of internal employees of any organization and access the internal server or database through the computer to extract the critical information or even physically destroy it. Let's look at why advanced persistent attacks, or APT, are more dangerous and exploding than other cyber attacks. It is designed to be more complex than a typical web application. Instead of attacking and shutting down once, it stays on the system when the network is breached and extracts as much necessary information as possible. Also, in most facilities, most entire systems targeted for attack. Although major national and military facilities are often targeted, they also cause significant damage to individuals. These intelligent persistent attacks target intellectual property rights, personally identifiable information, confidential data, infrastructure data, system access rights, and confidential internal communications. It is essential to prepare for this, and it is expected to become a pivotal point in cybersecurity in the future. As you can see, every year, around 200 million new malware is generated. Hacking attempts happen every 39 seconds. 24 trillion US dollars of damages are done, and ransomware damage accounts for 40%. It is because ransomware is one of the easiest ways to make money and also annihilate enemies. This is why this ransomware attack continues to increase. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is a game changer in this cybersecurity industry by providing cutting-edge technology that analyze and process massive quantities of data and improve the security system over time by itself. CAGR of this market is expected to be 23.6% from 2020 to 2027. And the market size is expected to reach $46.3 billion US dollars by 2027. As the key feature of EDR products is based on AI tech, since humans cannot work as fast and efficiently as artificial intelligence, the question is how deep this AI tech can be, depending on each cybersecurity company. The global APT protection market size is expected to grow from $5.2 billion US dollars in 2020 and to $12.6 billion US dollars by 2025, at a CAGR of 19.5% during the forecasted period. The driver of the growth of this market is rapidly evolving threats that can cause serious damage to the system of government, financial services, insurance, healthcare, banking, etc. It is important to note that the global APT protection market is growing dramatically. The global endpoint detection and response, or EDR, market size is expected to grow from $1.76 billion US dollars in 2020 to $6.272 billion US dollars by 2026, with a CAGR of 15%. An increasing demand from large enterprises and SMEs from diverse industry verticals to safeguard their premises from advanced threats such as malwares, ransomwares, advanced person threats has led to the growth of the EDR market. If we look at the conventional antivirus, it works based on the blacklist. It means that antivirus cannot effectively detect, remove new malware ransomware or variant malware ransomware. Antivirus is usually good at detecting already identified malware ransomware. However, it is noteworthy that new malware ransomware or variant malware ransomware can do more damage. This is also why many endpoints are vulnerable to APT malware ransomware attacks. On the other hand, AI-based EDR works not only on the blacklist, but also on behavior basis. AI-based EDR can analyze a large amount of event logs faster through big data processing than before. Dynamic malware behavior detection is possible through AI behavior analysis. It can also proactively detect malware behavior occurring to the environment. AI-based EDR can detect new malware ransomware and variant malware ransomware more effectively, since it focuses on the behavior of the suspicious files. It works with the automatic analysis of logs, automation of malware judgment, so it requires least human involvement. In particular, ransomware attacks target your essential document files and image files. Imagine you lose all your paperwork through ransomware. Unfortunately for now, when ransomware attacks happen, there's no way to stop it. So EDR is more about damage control. I'm sure we all agree that there's no such a thing as 100% cybersecurity for prevention. We have to accept the fact that no matter how good your cybersecurity system might be, it can be compromised. So what is important is how to damage control. This is why it is important to choose cybersecurity products or solutions which can provide backup functionality. You need to consider that all ransomware has some dormant period. Unless it is activated, it's hard to detect in advance. But once it is activated, EDR products should be able to detect the initial activation and can provide the instant backup of your essential documents and image files without any delay and save them in the kernel driver so that the remediation can be effective, efficient afterwards. This is why AI-based EDR with the behavior of a suspicious file focused is important. In particular, I think this is all the same. So servers, networks, and endpoints such as desktops and laptops that we use daily are vulnerable. But in the end, the most vulnerable in security is the person who uses these systems. Manipulating the human mind becomes an important tool, and that is called social engineering. Let's say you find a fancy USB stick from a famous brand on your office desk. You just needed a nice USB. So you picked it up, decide to use it. But the moment you accidentally plug it into your laptop or desktop computer, thinking it must be good, your system gets infected with malware ransomware. This is an example of a social engineering technique. Social engineering is a technique that uses the human mind to exploit a person's psychological weaknesses to obtain the personal information or break through a heavily protected system. In this case, it uses the psychology of people who want to use a USB that looks like it doesn't have an owner. It is an excellent example that maliciousware can take over a system through a human, even if various cybersecurity devices and programs protect it. The harmful effects of advanced person threats, attacks, caused by malware infiltrating the system are enormous. The Stuxnet virus is the epitome of the advanced persistent attack APT. They had specific targets and had the ability to destroy physical infrastructure. The internet was not required for infection. After taking over the system via USB using social engineering, they paralyzed about 1,000 centrifuges at an Iranian nuclear facility. Intelligent continuous attacks are continuously increasing worldwide. So how to prevent fatal, intelligent, persistent attacks? The minimum measure is equipping security programs and equipment specialized for advanced persistent attacks. In addition, thorough traffic monitoring is required. This is because Through comprehensive traffic monitoring, backdoor setup can be prevented in advance. The extraction of stolen data can be stopped, and suspicious users can be identified. Whitelisting is a way to control which domains and applications can be accessed on a network. Whitelisting reduces the APT success rate by minimizing the number of attack surfaces. For whitelisting to work correctly, you need to select the domains and application your team uses carefully and ensure that you are running the latest versions of all applications. A zero trust security policy is also essential. By limiting each account's level of access, users are given access only to the resources they need to do their job. Two-factor authentication, 2FA, and keeping up to date with the security patches are also a big help. No matter how well a security system is built, in the end, continuous security education for employees is essential. So social engineering training and active use of email filtering can minimize the damage caused by the advanced person threats, attacks. Thank you for listening. This is all I have. Thank you for your attention.